Yeah.
Everyone's ready for Geoffrey's feedback? Okay.
All right. Hello, I'm Geoffrey, and I will be presenting my findings on the question, does productivity increase with longer working hours in the United States? In the stimulus packet, former American President Richard Nixon defines productivity as getting more out of your work. But the packet also includes a sad tale of Sisyphus, who also forced to roll a boulder up the hill only to have it to roll back down. It was long and hard labor, but ultimately useless. Today, Americans are obsessed with long working hours and being available 24/7, all in order to increase productivity. We even revere Silicon Valley workaholics as role models. However, instead of being role models, should we instead pity them as workaholics as the modern day Sisyphus, endlessly working but ineffectively? In other words, does it really make us more productive to work longer hours? To understand why Americans work so much, we first must understand their work culture. Americans used to work towards not working. The American dream was to become idle rich. Benjamin Hunnick, professor of leisure studies at University of Iowa, explains in the early 20th century, shorter work hours were held up as the ideal. More leisure time was viewed as a sign of success. So, at this time of America, people idolized idle rich people who were just content to sit on their wealth after they made enough. This lifestyle was supported by the wealth effect. This idea when a person got rich enough, the wealth is used to buy more leisure to spend on themselves. Although being idle rich as a culture ambition in America has declined, over time the opposite has happened in American culture. Richard Freeman, Harvard economist and director of National Bureau of Economics, states that in the latter half of the 21st century, the inverse relationship between hourly pay and hour worked reversed itself, at least in the United States. Workaholic rich replaced the idle rich. This workaholic lifestyle can be seen in our top CEOs. For example, Marissa Myers, CEO of Yahoo, bragged about her intense work ethic. She routinely pulled all-nighters and had a 130-hour work week while working at Google. And she famously worked at Yahoo from her hospital bed after giving birth to 2 twins. This workaholic lifestyle is supported by Americans' desire to compete. A study done by Ian Kuhnmes, an assistant professor at public affairs at Princeton University, researched a phenomenon called the last place aversion paradox. In the study, Americans were asked if they support raising the minimum wage. People who earn more than the minimum wage and the people who made less than the minimum wage were in favor of increasing it. However, people making a little above the minimum wage were highly against it. This is the fear of being tied for last place. It is what drives Americans to push themselves to work longer hours. Oops. However, increasing hours does not increase productivity. Longer hours hurt worker health. The idea that increasing hours will increase Increasing hours does not increase productivity. This is called perceived productivity. Chris Orstein, senior writer for Maclean's, blames big technology companies such as Google and Apple for making it seem like work and play can coexist. Multiple experience has shown that productivity does not increase with longer hours. David Brown, Department of Economics and University of North Carolina, performed a case study with the U.S. Bureau of Economics, analyzing how working hours affect productivity. This research analyzed multiple American industries under working hours situations. His research showed that businesses with longer working hours, more than 52 hours, had the same output as businesses with shorter hours. Another study done by John Penclave, a Department of Economics at Stanford University, came to a similar conclusion by looking at working hours during World War I. He discovered that 48 hours was the optimal work hour. He even called 70 hours per week a waste of time. Longer hours hurt worker health. Longer hours actually increase the risk of injury. In an academic paper published by the Occupational Environment Medicine, an international peer-reviewed journal owned by the British Medical Journal, 100,000 American jobs histories, work schedule, and occurrences of occupational injuries were evaluated from 1987 to 2000. The paper showed that overtime schedules had a 61% increase in chance of injury, while a 60-hour per week had only a 23% chance of increase. Longer hours also have negative mental side effects. The British Civil Service researched mental side effects working overtime. Researchers administered various cognitive tests measuring verbal, reasoning, and vocabulary. After 5 years, individuals working longer hours were found to have lower scores. In addition, they would have increased alcohol consumption and increased signs of depression. Shorter hours actually increase productivity. Shorter hours increase productivity in two ways, by increasing output and increasing leisure. The book Hours and Work, Herbert R. Northrop, from the Department of Industry of Warren Finance and Commerce, reports that with decreased hours and increasing technology, the amount of capital per worker rose from $557 in 1850 to $18,722 in 1960. By decreasing the amount of time workers can work on improving themselves. Chris Orstein tells a story about how entrepreneur Katie Fang, who improved her team performance by decreasing the amount of work hours. In addition, Fang found that limiting work hours from 4 to 4-day work week, the workers spend extra time working on side projects and their programming skills, which indirectly helped improve the economy. In conclusion, productivity does not increase with longer work hours. The sweet spot of work hours is 48 hours per week. The research is consistent and clear. Increasing work hours beyond this point does not increase productivity. In fact, even mental health increase. Over the past 100 years, American culture has swung from idolizing the idle rich to the workaholic. Thank you.
In your research question process, did your research question go in a different direction ultimately than you originally thought?
Yeah, for some reason I was really fixed on seeing how Germany was really productive. In the hours without a world without work, they kept on they keep on bringing up Germany to compare to the United States, and I really wanted to research that. But although when I started to research, EBSCO didn't really have a lot on Germany, but they had a lot on productivity in America with longer working hours. The problem was just me trying to find the connection from longer working hours and productivity in the stimulus packet.
And how do you see your, well, let me ask you this question instead. From your research, have additional questions emerged that you could extend the research project? What else would you look at, or what other questions bubbled up for you as you read the research?
I don't think that much questions can bubble. I think all my answers all my questions have been answered. Like I always wondered why, like if you read The Great Gatsby, like all the movies portray as the rich being like just throwing parties everywhere, and then now when we kind of move over, if you watch like some of the documentaries on the most famous CEOs like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, they show them working endlessly and tirelessly, and they kind of move away from their family, which is another occurring theme, which I always thought about. If you increase your hours working in your job, even though you love it, does that mean that you might move away from your family, which I did not address in this speech, which I didn't have enough time. But a lot of top CEOs that were earning like 8 figures or 9 figures a year found that they do not actually have any real friends. Their family members always quote that they're never been there, and that they would have increase in alcohol consumption, and that kind of just spirals down. So they never really achieve the total greatness that they wanted, but the only way that they can see it is money.